Back again one day later after last week's episode. When you heard that, you're going to be hearing this one on the 28th of May. And I would say at this point, there's almost a 100% chance that the we've had the baby. Excuse me. I'm about to sneeze. Okay, great start to the podcast. TK Pod. We've almost assuredly had the baby at this point, but I am recording this in the not in the future, in the past, so that because of baby, we don't have to worry about maybe pumping an episode out next week. This one will be a simple one. Last week, I got emotional, didn't plan on it, but we had some perspective hit me a couple nights before recording that, or the night before recording that. And so, hey, we just talk about our life. We do what comes to mind and what feels right here. Today, I'm actually going back to the list of, at the time, again, it was called Snapped topics. It was just a list I had in my phone in the notes app. I changed that to TK Pod Topics. Got it on brand. Got it updated, modernized, and I have a lot on here. I can actually run through some of these topics. I have a shitload on here. I also have a random code on here, which I could be like a Facebook recovery code. I wish I knew what that was. I'm sure it's important, and now I forgot. Have no idea. Didn't label it. But some of the topics on the TK Pod topic note list on my phone: calories burned chronically versus acutely, and seeing a certain number burned on like your watch or some sort of electronic tracking device during a workout, and what all that means, and if it's real and how accurate and stuff. Heart rate, what that means, and why it matters during your workout, um, as you walk around during the day, kind of how heart rate plays into your fitness and health. Um, how to logically dissect gains at the beginning of a fitness journey. And I would get into that more, but really it's how much is actually you getting stronger, you adding muscle versus the neurological gains that happen when you haven't done a movement pattern. Um, I wrote this one as stairs is all you need. And that is a topic or an episode that would just be simply about how little you actually need to create workouts that are effective and be fit. That one is all the way back from COVID, like when everybody was stuck inside. Training versus working out. Hmm, what could that be? Training volume and your body adapting over time to that volume. Uh, deriving motivation from a narrative that you create yourself. That'll be a fun episode, and I have an example that I wrote down. The topic of just cold showers or cold tubs. The topic of mini cuts and mini bulks, which is what we're going to go over today. Dealing with an injury and the path back. The all or nothing fallacy. Um, a partner. I believe this is supposed to say a partner that supports you, but it says a partner that sports you. So I'm going to update that. A partner that supports you. I'm sure that was written in a time where my wife was being supportive of me. Rowing for zone two. That one's like very specific. I wrote Mamba mentality based on Kobe's book. Um, and then off of that, potentially doing book reviews or ideas that come from my nightly reading, which I haven't been nightly reading in a long time. Doing hard things intentionally, for example, exercise, so that you're resilient when they arise naturally. Ooh, that's a good one. Volatility and how you feel, recovery, hydration, relative to your peak performance, like zone two or your strength. And then one I just put down from today, which was actually kind of based on yesterday's episode that you heard last week, is lessons learned from kids. And then I wrote down one specific example. So a lot of stuff that's been on this list for a really long time, and a lot of stuff I mean, that's 15 or 20 episodes right there that I already get excited about when I look at those. Today we're going to go over the mini cut and mini bulk. What those are, how you would use them, why they're effective, all this stuff. Um and we'll get there in just a second. I do want to touch on quickly. I didn't even talk about this yesterday. At this point, now the 28th of May, 7 days after I'm recording this, I'll probably have gotten through all of what I'm about to say. But as you guys know, you've heard me talk about it. Maybe you don't know. I'll mention it briefly. We're in the middle of semis, time frame of the CrossFit competitive season right now. My season is over officially. I chose not to compete in the online semifinals that I qualified for because of an injury. However, that doesn't mean that I'm not working out or I'm not training still. I'm still very much so trying to stay as fit as you possibly can in 60 to 90 minutes a day. And a lot of that training still looks like very high level CrossFit stuff. The best way, one of the best ways that I personally see to continue to test myself, and it has this added benefit of seeing others who have done the workouts, is just taking all of the different semifinal workouts, both the ones from online, I've tested a couple of those, and all the ones in person, right? There was one in France, there was one in somewhere else over in Europe. There's been 2 or there's now been 3, no, 2 of the 4 American semifinals have gone. There's about to be one in Australia. There's these events all over the world that are semifinal level events with semifinal level workouts, and that is sort of where I'm at now in the fitness journey of the CrossFit competitive ecosystem, is testing myself up against these sort of workouts. And so the fittest experience is the latest one that just happened in Oklahoma City. And I am basically doing those workouts. I'm actually doing the RX versions. Just because I don't have a couple of the things, and I'm testing myself up against the RX division, and where those times would stack up. So we've done 2 of those. We'll go over those in a second. What's cool is Isaac from the gym, one of my 2 partners for the Miami competition earlier this year, was actually down at that competition and got 8th in the RX division. Not the official semifinal that was qualifying 2 spots to the games, but after those 30 pro guys, he was in the next division down and got 8th in that division. Did really well in a couple of the workouts. So I'm testing those workouts to see how I would have stacked up. Um, Good for me, total wise, would be somewhere in the top, I would say somewhere in the top 10. Like, Isaac placing 8th is really, really great. Honestly, really impressed because I didn't know he was peaking and stuff. He was doing team semifinals a couple weeks ago, so he's been in shape and he knew that this was coming down the road. But really, really great result from him in 8th. I think a top 10 after I kind of cumulatively do my scores and then add them all up and compare them would be good. I think I have the potential to be top 5. We'll see. I've done 2 of them. There's 6 workouts. One of them is Heavy Grace, which is a playoff of the Heavy Isabel that all these other semis are doing. Um, 30 clean and jerks at 225 for time. Gonna have to see where I'm at there. Haven't done that one yet. I've done 2 of them already, like I said. One of them was a very quick, very fast workout, 550-meter run directly into 4 cleans at 225, 3 cleans at 250, and 2 cleans at 275. My score would have been 3rd place on that workout out of 25 or 30 guys. And then yesterday I did another one, chipper style, sort of medium range chipper, 100 wall balls, 50 cal row, 50 dumbbell snatch at 50 pounds, and then 50 dumbbell step overs, single dumbbell step overs over a 24-inch box. So 100, 50, 50, 50. Got that one done in just under 12 minutes. Hard to say. I do believe that that was a workout specifically. I had more in the tank. Um, I think I could have been closer to like 11 minutes flat on that workout if I had, people in the lanes next to me, kind of to push against the adrenaline of an in-person competition, fans in the crowd, all this stuff. I was also doing that in the middle of a training session, so it was like accompanied with some other stuff. But I'll take the score that I got, and the score would have given me, it actually, funny enough, would have been just slower than Isaac's time, like 8 or 9 seconds slower. I think I could have got him. I think I could have got my guy. If I'm there in person. Um, I think if I do the workout again, I could honestly get 11 minutes, but that's not the way it works. So, um, so far, I'm gonna give myself about a third and an eighth, or a third and a seventh, I think, and knowing what my capability is, if you give me that game day juice a little bit. And we're gonna continue to do those workouts. There's some other ones. There's a fun rope climb one. There's a there's like a sandbag squat one. There's the heavy grace one, and then like an echo bike one as well. Maybe I jumbled a couple of those together. I'm not sure. There's 4 other workouts. I'm gonna try and get all 6 done and give myself a little feeling of where I would have been in that competition. So that's sort of where I'm at right now the past week, if you're curious about that. And I'm gonna continue to do that. I'm gonna do the Wadland Fest. Um, I think was the name of one. Uh, the um, Syndicate Crown is coming up either this weekend or next weekend as I record this, so that's a really fun one. And there's those workouts have been released. I'm pretty excited to do those. And then there's some other qualifying workouts too. Still have a couple of the online semi workouts to hit. There's some qualifiers that I've got a building list of workouts that I want to hit, and all of these have either leaderboards that I can go and look at, or people who have posted their times for me to then compare to, which is really, really helpful in me understanding like, hey, I've still got it right now, even though it's kind of the off season and I'm not training as much and all that stuff. So that's where we're at today. Real briefly before we end this podcast, we're going to talk about mini cuts and mini bulks. That is specifically pertaining to your nutrition, your diet, how you would use those, what they mean, why they're important, that kind of stuff. Um, for a lot of people, you could sort of perpetually be in a mini cut, mini bulk. A bulk being a time where you are in surplus calories, right? Calorie surplus. You're eating more calories on a daily basis than you are expending. And the term bulk sort of implies intentionality with that. You're right. You are doing this purposefully for a reason. Generally, that reason is to bulk, to put on mass, ideally muscle mass, right? You're at 200 pounds. You want to go on a little bit of a bulk and add 5 or 10 pounds of muscle. You go on a bulk, right? Conversely, you have the mini cut, and a cut is exactly what it is. You're cutting fat or you're cutting weight. You're at 200 pounds and you want to go on a little 2 to 3 month cut, and you cut down 5 or 10 pounds, ideally in that situation, fat. Because when we're taking away tissue from us, we want it to be fat mass. When we're adding tissue, we ideally want it to be muscle mass. We want muscle. We don't really want fat. Muscle makes us look good. It's what gives us the tone look. It also is just metabolically healthy. And so that's sort of what a cut and a bulk is. You apply the mini term to it, and really all that's relevant to is the length of time that you're in the surplus or the deficit of calories. And several ways to do this. If you just simply want to add 2 to 4 pounds of muscle or drop 2 to 4 pounds of fat, not 2 to 4 is just a relative term, but it's a small amount, right? If you're normally in a bulk of 20 to 25 pounds or a cut of 20 to 25 pounds, and that's just for some reason what you're doing in your life for whatever your goals are, then a mini bulk or cut for you could be 10 or 15 pounds. But when I think of it, I think of it as something around the 5 pound range, whether it's adding, 2 to 3 to 5 pounds of muscle or trying to lose 2 to 3 to 5 pounds of fat. And you can do that relatively quickly, right? 6 weeks or less. If you're dialing in the nutrition, the protein, the training, the stimulus, the recovery, if you've got it all dialed, you can go 3 to 5 pounds either way in 4 to 6 weeks, even if you're a trained individual. Um, so you can just do it by itself, right? You could just do a mini bulk, a mini cut, and it's really that simple. Now, you've got to be pretty dialed. You have to have a pretty good amount of experience, and you're going to be a more just sort of seasoned vet when it comes to bulking and cutting if you're going to be using mini cuts and bulks, simply because a beginner or someone who hasn't had a lot of experience going up and down with their weight, and tracking that specifically, a lot of times you're just going to be a little bit less detailed, a little bit less spot on with your calories. Um, Likely you're going to be just a little bit less detailed and disciplined with your lifestyle and your recovery and your sleep and all this stuff. And it's going to be hard to like just look at a 4 to 6 week span and be like, yeah, I'm going to add 3 pounds of muscle. Most people can't be that precise. Um, so the way that it's used for probably most normal people or people who are in a longer weight loss or weight gain journey would be to help regulate your metabolism a little bit in the middle of a larger phase. So what does that look like? Perfect. I get a client, they come to me. They're 250 pounds. Let's just say, for example, 250 pounds. And they want to lose 30 pounds. They want to go on a cut and they want to get down to 220. They think 220 would look good. Perfect. We're going to put them in a well, depending on where they're at, we're going to put them in a calorie deficit to lose that weight. Now, the secret to the not so secret to weight loss that a lot of people don't understand that actually is sort of something that people kind of forget or skip is a lot of people have already crashed their metabolism with years and years of lifestyle and diet choices. And so oftentimes, like I'd say over 50% of the time, right, at least 50-50 for me with the clients that come to me, you we actually have to eat more first. We actually have to increase their calorie intake first, um, to kind of jumpstart the metabolism to burn more calories, signal to their body that they can burn more. Um, but eventually, the way you're going to lose that weight is going to be the cut, the deficit. So once we're in that deficit, hey, say we've put 30 pounds is a lot. If you're doing it safely, I'd say 1 to 2 pounds per week would be safe. So you're looking at maybe 15 or 20 weeks there. Let's call it a 16-week program or a 20-week program that we're trying to get you down on. Um, Maybe in the middle of that, let's call it 20 weeks. We're going to be conservative. We're going to go slow. We're going to do it the right way. For 8 weeks, we're going to cut you. And then, because cutting weight and being in a caloric deficit after a certain amount of time, a lot of times, one, you're going to get the sort of the indicator that you're slowing down because your body weight stalls, or you experience something with your hunger or your nutrition that you're like, I'm just not feeling it. Your metabolism is going to try and adapt, right? So at some point, you throw in a 2 to 4 week mini bulk where you go into a caloric surplus or at least a caloric maintenance, based off of what your previous deficit was. And you use that to kind of signal to your metabolism, hey, don't worry, we're getting plenty of calories. I'm not starving. I'm getting plenty of calories here. I'm actually taking in over the course of this small 2 to 4 week period. Maybe it's smaller. Maybe it's like 2 weeks in this situation. We're getting plenty of calories. Don't worry. Don't slow my metabolism down. Keep it burning hot. And then after a couple weeks, you go back into that deficit, and your body's like, "Oh, I'm still good to burn calories, but we are in a deficit, so we're gonna lose weight." And it kind of gets stuck right in the middle. Same thing of that entire phase. Same thing on the other side. You want to gain a bunch of weight. Well, your metabolism is trying to keep up with you there too. So the more you eat, the more you're burning. It's trying to match that output. So at some point, you go in a little mini cut on the way up. Say you're trying to go from 220 to 250, you know, 6, 8 weeks into that program, your body's getting all this surplus of food. At some point, your body's like, okay, we're not gaining any more weight. We're matching the output here. Then you cut for a little bit and your body realizes, oh, we gotta hold on to some of this, right? And then you reverb out of that and back into the surplus, and now it's holding on to it, and you're still gaining that muscle, right? Probably a little easier to do on that side. Our bodies just naturally will gain weight versus losing it because of the survival instinct. So, um, that's what a mini cut and a mini bulk is. Don't know if you've ever played around with that. There's a lot more details and sort of nuance to those, but that's in a short explanation how and what those are. To some extent, if you're conscious about your health and your body weight and kind of your aesthetic goals, you're always kind of in a cut or a bulk or a maintenance. You're in one of the three. Um, and it's good to kind of play around and be in all stages throughout a year or a cycle of your life. Um, working to always better your body composition is pretty much the number one goal that you can never go wrong with. Um, and outside of that, just, maintaining health and body weight and the aesthetic that you prefer. That's what it looks like. So hopefully at this point, I am cuddling little baby boy. We're a family of 4 and we're trying to settle in and figure out life. I will talk to you next week, which is really 2 weeks from the time I'm recording this, and update you on being a father of 2. We'll talk then. See ya.